Forgotten Wonders of Ancient Civilizations, a journey through lost worlds. Is it possible that history has omitted the most amazing sights of the ancient world, either by choice or by forgetfulness? In the distant deserts of Arabia, there is a legend of the city of Ubar, destroyed by God and swallowed by the sand. In South America stands Caral, a metropolis from 4,000 years ago, built without walls, in a culture free from the domination of force. And at the bottom of the Indian Ocean supposedly lies Lemuria, a continent that was supposed to give rise to all civilizations. In today's episode, I'm taking you on a journey through forgotten worlds, cities, temples, and continents, whose existence disrupts what we took for granted. From the colorful labyrinth of King Minos in Crete, through the Ziggurat in Ur, the sacred center of the Sumerians, to the mysterious library whose flames could have halted the development of humanity for millennia. Each of these places is a separate story. Each is a wonder, not one known from the list of the 7 wonders of the world, but one that still eludes understanding. Ready for a journey through lost civilizations whose traces fade in the sand, but not in the memory of humanity? Part 1. The Palace of Knossos, the capital of the Minotaur. On the rocky eastern coast of Crete, amidst olive groves and the sun that never fades, lies a place where history meets myth. Knossos. For some, just ruins. For others, a gateway to an era when gods and men shared space. The palace at Knossos was the heart of the Minoan civilization, one of the oldest cultures in Europe, existing over 3,500 years ago. It was here that the legendary kingdom of Minos was supposed to be located, and beneath the palace, the labyrinth in which the king imprisoned the monstrous Minotaur. But what about the legend? Is it just a Greek myth or an echo of something real? When Sir Arthur Evans began excavating in the 19th century, he discovered something that exceeded his expectations. An intricate complex with hundreds of rooms, colorful frescoes, sewage systems, and courtyards. The building resembled a city more than a palace. The frescoes showed women in elegant dresses, bulls, religious ceremonies, and even acrobats leaping over animals, a ritual of unknown meaning today. And all this in harmony, without signs of violence, without defensive walls. Was Knossos a utopia? An interesting fact is that the word labyrinth may come from labris, a double-sided axe, a symbol of power and religion of the Minoans. So the labyrinth is not so much a corridor, but a sacred place, full of symbolism, riddles, and maybe secrets that we have not yet discovered. Knossos is proof that antiquity was not gray or primitive. It was an era of colors, rituals, and myths intertwined with reality. Part 2. The Ziggurat of Ur, the Forgotten Tower of Mesopotamia. In the arid and endless landscape of southern Iraq, where today only desert and ruins can be seen, once stood a monumental structure, the Ziggurat of Ur. In its heyday, it dominated its surroundings like a land lighthouse, showing the way not to sailors, but to pilgrims, priests, and rulers. Built around 21 centuries BCE, the ziggurat was part of a sacred religious complex dedicated to Nanna, the Sumerian moon goddess. She was one of the most important deities in the Mesopotamian pantheon. The structure at Ur itself was not only a religious center, but the heart of a city-state whose influence extended throughout the region. The structure was monumental. The ziggurat measured about 60 meters long and 30 meters wide, and its 3 stories, now partially reconstructed, led to a holy sanctuary at the top. Interestingly, the ziggurat was not a temple in the traditional sense. The priests did not go inside, but worshipped the gods outside, on terraces and platforms. But what was the ziggurat really? For the people of ancient Sumer, it was a stairway to heaven, a symbolic link between the human world and the divine sphere. It was built of sun-dried brick, but the structure was so solid that it survived millennia, wars, invasions, and even time. What makes this place seem forgotten? Unlike the pyramids of Egypt or the Acropolis in Athens, Ur and its ziggurat have disappeared from the global imagination. For centuries, they lay buried under sand and dust until the 20th century, when archaeologists rediscovered the ruins. Today, the remains of the ziggurat resemble a post-apocalyptic scene more than an ancient religious center. And yet, standing at its foot, It's hard not to feel like you're standing on the spot where humanity first tried to reach for the stars, literally and spiritually. Part 3. Caral, the oldest city in South America. In the Supa River Valley, just 2 hours from the bustling city of Lima in Peru, lies a place so quiet it seems to be from another world. This is Caral, a city older than the pyramids of Giza, older than Machu Picchu, and until recently, completely unknown. Caral is estimated to have been founded around 3600 BC, and yet, when archaeologist Ruth Shady discovered it in the late 1990s, the scientific world all but ignored it. How could such a vast and ancient city survive unnoticed? Caral was not a settlement. It was a metropolis, with pyramids, amphitheaters, ceremonial squares, and a system of irrigation channels. But what is most surprising, there is no trace of defensive walls, weapons, or even warrior graves. The Caral civilization seems to be one of the few that built its society not on war, but on trade, science, and rituals. In one of the pyramids, remains of musical instruments made from the bones of pelicans and llamas were found. In another, traces of burnt offerings of fruits and herbs were found. Could it be that the priests of this culture did not sacrifice humans, as their later neighbors did? Even more fascinating are the discoveries of engineering knowledge. The inhabitants of Caral were able to create earthquake-resistant structures using a filling of bags of stones and sand, something that resembles modern shock-absorbing systems. But who built Caral? And why could a civilization that didn't know writing create something so complex? Were they the beginning, or an echo of an older, more forgotten culture? Caral doesn't fit into the textbook narratives. It's like a voice from the distant past that hasn't been fully heard yet. Part 4. Tanis, the lost capital of Egypt. When we hear about the treasures of the pharaohs, our thoughts immediately turn to the Valley of the Kings and the tomb of Tutankhamun. But that was not where the most magnificent collection of gold objects in Egyptian history was found. It happened in a place that few people remember today, in Tanis. Tanis was one of the main capitals of Egypt in the 3rd millennium BC, and its importance increased, especially during the 21st and 22nd dynasties. The city was bustling with life, a religious, administrative, and commercial center. There was a huge temple of Amun here, today almost completely ruined. In the 1930s, French archaeologist Pierre Montet stumbled upon something unexpected at Tanis: intact royal tombs, golden masks, sarcophagi, jewelry, magnificent decorations, all untouched by thieves. One of the most valuable finds was the golden mask of Pharaoh Susenes I, compared to Tutankhamun's mask, although in reality it is even more elaborate. So why isn't Tanis mentioned as often as Luxor? Montet's finds didn't attract much attention during World War II, and later archaeological fashions focused on other sites. What's more, the city had been gradually destroyed over the centuries. Stones from the temples were used by the locals to build their homes, and the muddy terrain of the Nile Delta slowly swallowed up the remnants of its ancient glory. Yet Tanis conceals something extraordinary, an echo of Egypt, which is not only pyramids and mummies, but also the mysterious, almost forgotten heritage of the north of the country, a place where the pharaohs still rest in silence, waiting for the world to remember them again. Part 5. The city of Ubar, Atlantis of the desert. For thousands of years, Bedouins roaming the Arabian Peninsula have told legends of a city that disappeared without a trace. Ubar, a lost settlement full of towers, riches, and secrets, mentioned even in the Quran as Iram, the city of columns. It was said to be so powerful that the sky itself was offended. It was destroyed, swallowed by the sands, as if it had never existed. For centuries, Ubar was considered a myth. But in 1992, a team of researchers, aided by NASA satellite imagery, discovered something extraordinary in southern Oman, in an area known as the Rub al-Khali, or empty land. Under layers of sand and stone, they found the remains of ancient walls, wells, and ruined structures. This place came to be identified with the legendary Ubar. Interestingly, the area was once a key point on the incense trail, a trade route for frankincense, a valuable resinous material used in rituals and medicine. It was the incense that would make Ubar rich and influential. But any empire built on a single commodity can crumble easily. The accounts suggest that Ubar may have been destroyed by an earthquake or a subsidence. Possibly the wells and caves beneath the city collapsed, taking the entire city with them. The wind and sand of the desert did the rest. Today, the remains of Ubar are just a shadow of the legend. A few walls, fragments of columns, the remains of a well. But is this enough to connect this place with the mythical city of Iram? Or maybe the legend of Ubar is more than one city, a symbol of a civilization that has faded into oblivion, leaving behind a story that we repeat to this day. Part 6. The Lost Library of Alexandria. It was like a light in the darkness, a temple of knowledge that was to gather all the wisdom of the known world. The Library of Alexandria, built in the 3rd century BC at the initiative of the Ptolemaic rulers, was one of the most ambitious intellectual undertakings in human history. Located in Alexandria, Egypt, a city founded by Alexander the Great, the library was more than just a collection of scrolls. It was a place where scholars from all over the world worked: mathematicians, doctors, geographers, astronomers, poets, and philosophers. It was believed that hundreds of thousands of scrolls were stored within its walls. Some sources say as many as 700,000. It housed works from Greece, India, Mesopotamia, Egypt, and even ancient China. Every ship that entered Alexandria's harbor was searched for texts. Copies were sent to their owners, while the originals remained in the library. But this treasure trove of knowledge did not survive the test of time. The destruction of the library is attributed to Julius Caesar during the siege of the city in 48 BC, but other sources suggest that the library was destroyed gradually, over several centuries, by Christian fanatics, Muslim conquerors, and perhaps even by the rulers of Egypt themselves, who considered the accumulated knowledge dangerous. Along with the library, a priceless part of the human heritage perished. The texts of philosophers whom we now know only from quotes, astronomical theories that could have accelerated the development of science by centuries, and perhaps also works that could have changed the history of the world. Part 7. Lemuria, the Forgotten Continent. Beneath the surface of the Indian Ocean, where today there is nothing but water and silence, there was supposed to have once been a land, a huge continent called Lemuria. For some, it is a pseudo-scientific fantasy. For others, a real, although forgotten civilization that disappeared from the face of the earth as a result of a catastrophe. The idea of Lemuria was born in the 19th century, when European naturalists wondered why lemurs, small primates, were found only in Madagascar and India, but not in Africa or the Middle East. To explain this geographical paradox, they proposed the existence of a landmass connecting the two areas, a landmass that would eventually sink. Although later discoveries of plate tectonics and continental drift dismissed this theory as unnecessary, Lemuria found a new lease on life. Theosophists, spiritualists, and mystics began to describe it as the cradle of an ancient, spiritually advanced civilization that existed long before Atlantis. According to these accounts, the Lemurians were a people of exceptional spirituality, living in harmony with nature, and possessing knowledge about which we can only speculate today. Is there evidence? Modern geology does not confirm the existence of a lost continent in that region, but some underwater structures, such as those off the coast of India and Sri Lanka, still raise questions. Is Lemuria just a myth? Or an echo of a real culture whose traces have long since been swallowed by the waters? What do you think? Are all these places just stories and legends? Or maybe evidence that our past is much more complex than we think? Let me know in the comments, subscribe if you like, and see you in the next episode.